Okay, that's bizarre. Okay, we live now? It's still going crazy. Alright, let's see if Rumble's live at least.
Let me check.
That's what I'm about to do. We're gonna see if this is live yet.
Let me check.
Okay, so it looks like we're live here. I had no idea. No, no, there we go.
It's
Okay.
still going crazy.
So it finally popped out on YouTube. Okay.
All right.
Oh my god. It's always something. Okay. There's a problem with Ninja Chat and trying to get everybody involved in just two platforms. These two in particular don't like playing well together. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have too many people in here tonight so far. I imagine that'll probably change slowly over time. I am going to put notifications out. I didn't put anything out before, so we'll see who all pops up.
No, I didn't either.
So I'm kind of terrible with this today. We'll see. It's gonna be whatever it's gonna be. Okay, so we do have an interesting show for you tonight on something that
We do.
I'm personally going to be covering on a longer video. It should be pretty substantial. I was doing the voiceover work for it the other day, and it's 20 minutes just based on my voiceover, and that doesn't include any breaks to shine the light on any music or highlight any music. So I expect that to probably be 25 minutes or more in length. So it's going to be pretty substantial. It was pretty
That's gonna be an
close.
awesome
It,
video.
it was pretty close to what I thought it was going to be because I thought it was going to be pretty close to the Metroid one. And honestly, I probably could have added a little bit more to it, but I thought I'd keep it where it is. Um, I might send it over to you, Mike, and get kind of your input on it, or send it over to Matthews and get his input on it, and just see what you guys think. Because
I'd
maybe
love to.
maybe could use a little bit of rework. I suspect you're going to be echoing because I'm getting you through on what is my desktop audio coming through. Hold on.
That's a good question.
That one's coming up on Vio, and it's also coming up on Aux Vio. So we'll have to see if people are hearing you in echo. I'm not in my headset, but I'm also not listening to the stream
And
right
I'm
now.
not hearing any either.
Okay, so we're gonna see how this works. This could be fun. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about a couple things. One, we're kind of going to do our normal thing of going back and forth and see what each of us did this weekend. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the weekends of this event. We're not going to focus on it too much, but I feel like it does need to be addressed because it happened and it's a thing. So, and it's not a very good thing. So, before we get into which one do you want to start, Mike? Do you want to start by addressing the elephant in the room there, or do you want to start with the weekend?
That's up to you. I made a statement on my Sunday night stream, just a short one. Um, it you know, I would not be surprised if people are muting me on X for a little while right now because I'm kind of a lot more vocal now than I was, say, a week and 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I would, I would respond to posts here and there because everybody else gets to speak their mind, and I feel like I've always felt like I couldn't say anything, about anything. I couldn't give my opinion on anything that wasn't gaming or whatnot because what would people think of me? And I sort of have been moving away from that a bit. Rumble has helped with that, to be quite honest. But I still have been, very reserved. And, if I see something that somebody said, and I know if I respond to something, you don't see a whole lot of responses anymore on X, just like you don't see likes and things like that. So I'll respond to something. But since Saturday, I'm I'm kind of done being quiet. And
Yeah,
I, I don't want to turn my look. I don't want to turn my channel nor my X feed into a political feed. That is not what I'm trying to do.
right.
And to be honest, what I'm trying to do is figure out. I used to have a political. I used to have a
Sub
political
Oksana.
Twitter account. Hey, what's going on, Oak? I used to have a political Twitter account. I used to use it away from my gaming account, so that people did not have to. It didn't mix. It got banned back when X was still owned by censors who didn't like that I defended myself against, a Nazi, to be quite honest. And my account was banned. It never
Right.
got unbanned, even though Elon Musk, when he took over Twitter, said he was going to, give amnesty to everybody. So
They
I
might
was
have
really
had to like directly
considering.
ask or something like that. Who knows?
I don't know, but I'm considering just getting a new one set up and kind of keeping that away from my gaming feed, because I do know there's a lot of people that I do follow that follow me that do not want to, don't want to see all that stuff, and I understand that completely. And to be honest, I don't want it to be, and I said this very, very, very clear several times last night, that anything that I say is not official NLG. Peter is part of the channel, and we don't. I mean, him and I have talked before, but I don't speak for him. He doesn't speak. He speaks for himself, and I don't want anybody to attach anything that I say to him. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. But at the moment, I need an outlet. I am. I'm
I don't really need much of an outlet. I'm not a very political person. Um, and I don't like both sides. Um, I didn't like the recent stuff, and I don't think the world wants what we've been talking about recently. Yeah. My stance on this is what happened on Saturday never should have happened. Flat out. I don't care
I
how
don't
you feel about either candidate. This kind of behavior is unacceptable and should never happen. Um,
never.
Coming out and saying you shouldn't have missed is also wrong and shouldn't be said.
I've been
He's
blocked,
a
and I've been
political
blocking.
nominee. If you don't like him, cast your
He's
ballot.
a exactly.
If you don't think your ballot's going to count, then I don't know what to tell you. Talk to the people in charge and try to get your electoral college to vote the way they're going to vote. I felt for a long time the popular vote doesn't really matter very much. It's all up to the electoral college. Even though they're supposed to vote the way the populace votes, they don't necessarily always do that. That's fact. That's not fiction. That's fact. Um,
What makes us a constitutional republic and not a pure
yeah.
democracy?
Now, and on the other side of people saying you're lucky he didn't actually get hit, otherwise there would have been a civil war, you guys need to stop that shit too. Flat out, all stop. We have too many people in the world and our allies that count on us being a fixed point and being a fixture in these affairs. Whether you like it or not, we're part of a global economy. We're part of a global world, more so than we've ever been. We need them, they need us. We cannot show division during this time. I don't care what the hell's going on internally. We cannot show division. You cannot say you're going to start a fucking civil war. One, it won't work. Just ask the South. I know. I live there. It doesn't work, and it won't work. Two, there's no fucking call for any of that. So, we need to stand up united, put down the fact that this has happened, condemn it to the highest we can, and hope that the powers that be come to a conclusion as to what really happened and move forward as one united nation, which is what we're supposed to be. And that's the end of my statement on that. If you have any questions, ask somebody else, because I don't care. I don't like either candidate. I think they're both trash. And I don't care what you think about my opinion.
Yep.
I will file it
And
in
you
the
know what?
trash with
That
everybody
is
else's opinion of what my opinion is.
That is perfectly okay. And you know what?
And
I
I expect you to
completely
do the same with
1000
mine.
absolutely. And I completely, even though I completely 1000% disagree with you on part of that, that is perfectly cool. You are everybody's got that's what makes the world go round. Is that everybody is the freedom to think what they want. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And yeah,
Speaking of
there's a
which,
lot of mess going around with it. Um, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think we should just, elect Megatron and Starscream as the vice president and just be done with it, or elect Cthulhu. Those seem to be more candidates with better heads on their shoulders than anything we have going on. Um, Other than that, let's go ahead and go into what happened over the weekend. Not this event, obviously. I'm done talking about that. I do not want to take this in a political manner. I do not run a political channel. I'm primarily addressing it because, on the larger scheme of things, larger or smaller scheme of things, I am personally on a political platform now, so I feel the need to at least condemn the actions of the shooter and condemn the actions of those that want to be divisive and separatist during this time. This is not the time for that. So I just want to make those statements known. If you don't like them and you don't like me, you do know where the door is. Sorry, not sorry. All right, moving on to more fun things. Mike, what'd you do this weekend?
um, what did I do this weekend? I tore up some shrubbery outside of my house. Um, I That's about it. I tore up some shrubbery outside my house. That was my weekend.
Cool. I didn't do too much. I did a stream on StarCraft where I mostly got my butt kicked this weekend. I got through one map. It took me ages. What's up, Ty Lord? Um,
Yeah. I mean, I streamed
tried to go through
Starfield last
another
night,
map
but
and failed at that one miserably, so I need to reapproach that one. But that took me about 3 hours or more. I was kind of done at that point. Um, Sunday I actually did 2 streams. I was just in the mood to play Rise, so I booted up Monster Hunter Rise and played that for a little bit, and then I booted up Gunstar Heroes for Sega Sunday, and I actually managed to get all the way through that one, which I was kind of surprised about. That game only took
nice.
just over 2 hours to beat. It
Really?
really,
Wow, I don't remember it being that easy. I mean,
I just
that was
found
one of
this weird configuration of weapon that just seemed to work very easily through the stages, and it
wow.
wasn't that hard.
All right, because
The
that's
first time I played it, I remember it being significantly harder. Like it's
it
kind of like a
right.
platform bullet hell kind of thing that you're kind of going through, and it's sort of a mess to conceptualize as you're running through it, right? Um, and mentally it can be a little exhausting as you're running through it because the enemies are just non-stop coming in like crazy. So it kind of becomes a little bit wacko that way. I mean, overall, it's a really good game. Let's talk politics and no shrubbery talk. What's up, zombie? Good to see you.
They shrubbery. Hey, can we talk about the absolute worst national anthem since we're talking about music? I was also,
I was going to talk video
between
game music. Why are we going to national anthems? I'm confused.
because because the worst national anthem was ever sung tonight that I've ever heard. Because I was flipping back and forth between sorry, not sorry. I am a conservative. I was watching the convention, but then I also flipped over to the home run derby because my man Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles was in it. Because the Orioles are like majorly represented in the All-Star game this year.
Go
And
ball team. Yay, sports.
shush you for a second. This
ACM
four-time
Retro, how you
Grammy-nominated woman
doing?
sang the absolute worst national anthem I've ever heard. I'm just had to point that out. There's your your palate cleanser
I
from
don't know. I
politics.
actually feel like God, what's her name? Roseanne Barr did one of the worst jobs ever. She deliberately did a terrible
But
job
that
on
was
the
on
national
purpose.
anthem.
That was on purpose.
Yeah,
This was not.
yeah. This
This was
doesn't mean she
not. This
should
was
have
like
done it.
yeah. This woman was supposed. She is. She, I'm looking her up now. She was nominated for 4 Grammys, which goes to show that auto tune is a real thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I had to.
Oh, OC's got a bunch of apparently micro machines he needs to send over to Chris.
Oh,
Nice. CM Retro also runs another channel called Toy Freak, where he does a lot of work with particularly micro machines and other things, but he loves his micro machines. So he's big into those. I haven't collected those in years. I remember messing with them back when the original dude, that really fast talking dude, was doing their commercials. And I had a bunch of fun with them then. I had a bunch of the kits and everything like that. It was a good time. Um, but yeah, what we got for you tonight is we're going to dive a little bit into video game music, a little bit about its history. I do have a long form video coming up. Like I said, it's going to take a while for me to edit this one. It was like 20 minutes of voiceover work that probably took me like 40 minutes to get through because I'm terrible doing my voiceover work. I can talk until I really need to talk, and then my tongue goes no.
dude, I've been there.
And
I've
I'm
been
like,
there.
damn it,
You just go,
cooperate.
why? Yes, come on. What is? Yeah, and you just go, and you. I've had instances where I've had to record the same thing like 12 times.
Oh god, man,
And you
I must have spent 5 minutes on like one paragraph or more. It was awful.
and you just go, you wrote this.
Yeah,
You
I know.
know
I
what the
wrote it, and
words
it
are.
makes it reads
Right.
fine, right?
Right.
But
You
speaking
know
it is a
what words
totally
you
different thing.
right. Mike, you know what words you put on the paper, say them.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
Oh,
looking right at them. It's not like I don't have a reference tool here, but yeah, it's yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
So, honestly, I don't expect too much for crowd tonight, particularly on Rumble. I think everybody's watching the national convention, so I expect this to be
It's
kind
so
of like a.
it's wrapped up though, so
Has it?
we'll
Okay,
get
all
full on
right.
it. Yeah,
Maybe
it's
people will
wrapped up.
pop in. I don't know. Um, People have
There are
had better
18,000
things to
people
do
watching.
than to visit me on Rumble lately. Let's just put it that way.
Well, all right. I think I think that is happening across the board a little bit. And let don't forget it's summertime. A lot more grass is being touched. A lot more. I as people are people are freaking out about this. Like
Grass is
I don't know. I'm
overrated.
not. I know. It's kind of weird though because I've seen people start like multi-streaming again. Like, oh, my views are going down on Rumble, so I'm going to multi-stream to Twitch and whatnot. And I'm like, you guys know it's summertime, right? You know people are on vacation. You know people are out doing things. My kids have swim team. It's like I'm actually surprised. We're not. We went down a little bit, but the last I'd say 3 or 4 good streams that I've done with because I'm a Ant Stream arcade partner now,
Yes, yes.
which has been great. I have really enjoyed Ant Stream Arcade. Um, I'm really having fun with it, doing challenges and stuff like that. There's a few of our streams over the last couple weeks. The Sega CD stream, the Outrun speedrun night I did. Um, they're all doing pretty well view wise. So I think people did they'll get back.
We'll see.
It's
Anyway, I'm
summertime.
not too worried about it. Anyway,
Yeah, I
what we're
mean,
gonna do is we're gonna briefly kind of go through. I don't know if you want to do this chronologically or just go through like bits that you've really enjoyed as far as video game music goes to kind of highlight it. How do you want to handle
um,
this organizationally, Mike?
oh, that's a good question because I could just name just tons of music. So if you want to go chronologically, we can kind of hit music that we like from various eras.
Okay. I mean, the first notable music that I can, there's two things that I can think of that were like really early on. Three, actually. One was
Okay.
Pong, because that was the first sound in a video game, realistically. And then there's Space Invaders, which pretty much made its own soundtrack without actually having a soundtrack.
Kinda, yeah.
And then Rally X, which actually had the first soundtrack in a game
Was Rally X prior to
prior to
Xevious?
Carnival.
Prior to Carnival?
Yep, by about 6
Xevious?
months.
because Xevious kind of had a
I don't know
soundtrack
about
to it.
Xevious. I know the two that I found were Carnival and one was Rally X.
No. Um, Now, stuff had so things had intro to level music, right? So obviously Pac-Man did,
Yeah,
Galaxy
I'm
and
talking about
Galaga.
actual like theme
You're
tracks,
talking about in,
not like
yeah, I got you. You're
cutscenes.
talking about in,
Yeah,
right? You're
yeah.
talking about in. I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Pac-Man had
Um,
like the between scenes theme
it
and like
did,
the startup theme,
and
but
the
it didn't
startup.
play consistently during the whole thing,
It
right?
did not. Right.
That's more what I'm
Um,
calling. I mean, while that
okay.
classifies as music, that doesn't really classify as like a background track or a theme song or anything. It's not like Bloody Tears from Castlevania. It's not like the Contra music, that plays during the whole time you're playing. That's more kind
Right.
of what I leaned into. Now I don't know if that's how
I
you want to
totally get
count
that.
that,
No, 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 no.
or how you want to do that.
No, that I think that is the way to. I think that's how. To me, that's what a soundtrack is. It's what you're hearing, kind of in game, in level. You're right. When I think of soundtracks, right, I think of stuff in Neo Geo games. I think of stuff in shmups. I think of stuff in, um, in the CD when the CD based games begin to come. Or even before that. I mean, if, you know, we could also talk about iconic um, soundtracks of those times as well, right?
Yeah,
Um, and it's not. I would also say it's not just consoles. Um, Older computers, the Commodore 64, the Atari
yeah. The
8-bit.
Commodore 64 is one that came to mind when it came up. The Atari was doing some music, but the Commodore 64 kind of seemed to be kind of in a league of its own in that era.
There are some. So it's kind of interesting. I've been beginning to look at much more Commodore 64 and start to put them
Hey,
up
Galaxy,
against
thanks for popping in,
Atari.
man.
Hey, Galaxy, and starting to kind of compare them to the Atari 8-bit stuff at the time. And what I'm finding is it depends on the game. Some games sound much better on the Commodore 64. Some games sound way better on the Atari 8-bit. And it's kind of and it's basically it basically comes down to how folks coded the music.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's kind of a big thing to take away here, guys. When you're starting to look at this old school 8 bit music, and to look at Oak City's comment, he says, I love chip tunes for the record, which you can play the music from
mhm.
Goonies 2 and the NES. Uh, it really only had the one track, and I don't think we would get copyright claimed on it.
No, not. I don't think we would.
Not for that
Um,
revision of it, at least.
no. And that music was also in because I had Goonies for the Atari. There was the same game with the same. It was the Cyndi Lauper song, right?
Yes.
Cyndi Lauper did
Good
it. Yeah,
enough.
good, right. Um, it was a good game, by the way, Goonies. But there was also like older games like so. And again, I just go back to computers as well. There were games like Zorro that had a soundtrack in it. It was the same thing over and over and over, but it was a soundtrack. Um,
I don't know if
Rally
you
X,
guys in the crowd can hear that. You're going to have to let me know.
I can't. You said I'm on the aux channel, right?
Correct.
All right, whatever channel, what channel is that going through on your banana?
Let's just see if the chat can hear the music, because I don't want to fight that tonight.
No,
I
just
really
hit
don't.
B2 on,
Banana
just
pisses me
hit B2
off.
on
I
your,
hate it.
just hit B2 on your mixer and I'll hear it. Well, A1 is no. Did you enable B1 or B2 rather?
B2's been enabled.
All right, try enabling B1. Oh, that's weird. I can't hear it.
Can you hear it now?
Nope.
Oh, this broadcast ring. How about now?
Nope.
And now?
No.
I hate this program.
No.
I really do.
I don't know.
I think it's trash.
I wish I knew why you had such trouble with
Dude,
it.
it's trash. It's just I hate it. It's fine.
It's weird. I don't know why you have. It's just
It
weird.
never works appropriately. We've gone through an hour worth of setup.
We have gone through. We have, and I don't.
And then it breaks randomly. Now,
Yeah, I don't know
if I put you through the main VIO on there, it'll probably work fine. But then when you talk, it'll echo like crazy.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
But apparently they can hear it because Oak City said that's it. Yeah, but do the chorus loop for some of the things. Wants to get the Sega card that lets you play the music through it. Yeah. Yeah, he hears it fine. So you're the only one who can't hear it. And I have no idea why. So, color me curious because I've got my VIO coming on B2. I've got you coming in on B2. I've got it coming through A1.
Right, but the
Rodecaster on B2. Everything's pretty much on B2. So in theory, you should be able to hear it, but you can't.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know. It never seems to work, and I'm just not going to concern myself with it if the audience can hear it.
Well, look at. Hang on. Let's try a small experiment because I can help you with this.
Okay, I just didn't want to spend half the stream troubleshooting this. But continue.
No, not you not you troubleshooting. Hang on. Tell me if you hear this.
Nope.
You don't hear the music?
Nope.
I wonder if this is a Video Ninja thing.
Don't know.
I'm starting to wonder if it's a Video Ninja thing because by all rights, you should. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Where's my? I know why you don't hear it, and you will in a second. I think.
Yeah, Oak's not hearing it either.
No, you won't. But I know why.
I shouldn't have
I know why on my end.
This is not what I wanted to do tonight. I
right,
did not want to do this for 30, 40 minutes of the show.
Keep talking then. Go.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Okay. But you're a big part of the conversation because you're the only other host I have. So.
Well, I know, but Goonies. I said Goonies. I said Zorro. Are we? What era? Okay, what era are we in right now?
I don't know. Somebody mentioned the Goonies soundtrack, so I just pulled that up. Now,
I mean, Goonies Goonies NES.
Rally X is another one that's right here.
That was 1980.
You probably won't be able to hear this, but this had its own kind of soundtrack. And actually, I can flip this over to desktop so everybody can kind of see this. This is a weird game called Rally X, guys. And this kind of had a persistent soundtrack as you were racing through this maze, collecting flags. Matter of fact, the S flag in Smash Brothers, I believe, actually comes directly from this game because it would double the points of every flag you picked up. And I had no idea what that was from until I started doing this video. But for some reason, you're racing an F1 car through a maze to pick up flags and dodge red cars and boulders that want to slam into you and kill you. And I have, no idea why you would use an F1 car. I don't get it.
Speed Racer.
But Speed Racer was on a track. This isn't a track. It's a maze. It's very confusing.
Well, it's a maze, but it's a track. it on a track.
Kind of, but not really.
Use your imagination.
I'm not imagining anything. This is a hedge maze, dude. It's literally a hedge maze.
It is, but it's on a road.
In theory.
In theory.
But you've got to grab like all the flags before you run out of fuel. Make it to the end of the stage, and then you go to like the next stage. And it just plays that one simple track throughout the whole thing. Because the big thing that you guys have to remember with like music at this era is there was really like no memory. Like even by the Genesis and Nintendo era, you had like 64 kilobytes of memory total for music. And entire games on the NES would be around 128 kilobytes, right? For the entirety. So they had to come up with a lot of clever ways of building and executing music in any of these
Right.
things. And one of the ways they did it is they did it directly in hex code.
Right. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Now can you hear the
Okay,
music?
now I can hear that.
Okay. Took me a second because because Video Ninja's weird. So if you bring up music, I can find it and I can play it and everybody will hear it.
Okay. That's
So
fine,
and
but I should be
have
able to play it from my side.
You should, but I won't be able to hear it, and I'm not going to. I'm not. I don't want the rest of your beard to turn gray. So if
It's
I
going
can
to
help,
do that eventually anyway. I just don't want to be fighting it all night tonight. I don't feel like it's worth it.
so don't fight it. Let me help. I will. You tell me what we want to. I
Okay.
will get the music.
Okay.
So music of the 1980s. That is, I mean, we're talking about, Rally X. I'm trying to think of other things. There was Carnival, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Um,
Those were the main ones that I remember from then. I mean, they slowly
how,
were getting
so, okay.
soundtracks through the arcade.
All right.
And the PC had some.
What about, and I was just playing this game the other night. So in 1982 was Dig Dug. Dig Dug was a little interesting because if you've seen me play Dig Dug, the music plays as long as you're moving. And it is a soundtrack. But it stops playing when you stop. When you stop moving. Would you consider that?
Yeah, that's 82 to
would you count that?
85. I mean, that kind of counts. I mean, while you're moving, it's fine.
Okay. Because Xevious is the other one. Xevious has a continued loop sound in it as well.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, the ColecoVision had games that had soundtracks in them in that era.
Yeah,
So
I think Time
games,
Pilot actually had one.
Time Pilot, I think, had one. Venture had one.
Yeah, Venture had one as well.
And it had
Everybody's
different
just typing
songs.
I'm not really sure what's going on. What's up, Arcade Pilot?
Hi, Arcade Pilot.
Same thing
happened. Yeah,
Castles,
that's
you
right.
said.
He's
Yeah.
right. Same thing happened when you stopped moving, right? Kung Fu Master had a soundtrack. It was the same thing over and over. But it was there.
Well, it was the same one that was on the NES Kung Fu as well.
Because it's basically.
I mean, it was a little bit lesser because it was on the NES and it wasn't on a full arcade board, so they didn't allocate as much memory. But yeah,
Right.
it was there.
So, but I think once you got to the NES, of course, now you're talking about. Look, what more iconic soundtrack two soundtracks can you have than Super Mario Brothers and The Legend of Zelda? Hey, Amos.
Yeah,
How we doing?
honestly, there were three that came to my mind. Most of the ones that are the most memorable to me started hitting around the NES time, right? The early ones, like
Right.
Palm bringing out probably one of the first sounds, Space Invaders kind of making its own soundtrack is interesting from a development standpoint of us moving kind of that direction, right? In a lot of ways, I attribute Space Invaders to kind of giving people the idea of wanting something constantly in the background like that, right? To increase immersion, right? So then you had stuff like um, Outrun on Commodore 64 sounds insane. Honestly, it's really good.
It
If you pull
does.
that one up, it actually sounds better than the
Oh,
Master System version in my mind. It's a little bit warmer and it drops a little bit less than the Master System does, even though the Master System came out later.
let's go with my favorite, Magical Sound Shower. And sorry, I am going. Here we go. I mean, that's for what it was. Now, let's look up the Master System. It's not horrible for
No,
for that time.
it's a little bit more reverby, it's a little bit less dynamic, and it's a little bit less.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
the sound chip in the Commodore 64 was.
It said each out on 664 was superior to the ear splitting Master System minus the FM sound module.
Well, let's
Hey,
take a
Heathen
look at
Deluxe, how
that.
you doing, by the way? Yeah, I looked for some really good stuff from the Master System, and I think part of it was people not
Here's
really
that.
being
Here.
equipped to be able. What are you playing now, Mike?
Now this is Master System. This is the FM Master System. Then there was a PSG. By the way, this is one of my favorite soundtracks. Period.
This one's
This is like
better than anything else I've heard off of the Master System. Most of the stuff on the Master System's kind of rough. Crunchy is a good way of calling it.
Now there's another version.
Too, on the Master System's actually pretty good.
All right, so that's
Yeah,
basically.
Texas Instruments computer, Alpine Climber, really good music. Matter of fact, Texas
Yes,
Instruments actually made
TI-99.
Yeah, the Texas Instruments, I think the same one that was on the TI-99 was actually in the Master System, so it had the same sound chip.
So
He didn't say in the
here,
FM module was never released in the States. I know it was in the Genesis. I don't think it was. I think the Master System just had the SN chip.
I believe you're correct, which is what you're hearing now.
Yeah.
The problem is there was no real drum sound in there. Like you could hear it,
Well,
but
it
it was
had
more.
I don't know if I don't know that it really had a noise sampler. It had like a couple of like square gates and a couple of triangle gates, but most of them had like what they call a noise generator, and that would allow you to do sound effects, explosions, drums, stuff like that. But you had to sample it and then load it in, and I don't know
Right.
that they really put a lot of time into it.
So I can't find.
The soundtrack on the Genesis is getting technical. I haven't heard that one. Arcade Pilot's like Master System audio.
Hang on, I can't quite find Alpine Climber, but somebody did put this.
Now that it's sizzling out,
Hang on.
is your AC fizzling
Yeah,
out?
Sim Retro's
Beat
like
the
they
heat
really
with
loved those
Horizon
epic
Zero.
squeals back in the day.
This is the TI-99 4A. I mean, it really wasn't anything to it.
Yeah. I mean, the first computer-generated audio, actually, if you guys are just talking chiptunes, goes all the way back to 1951.
Oh yeah. Hang on, let me see if I can find anything. They didn't chapter this out, so I'm kind of skipping around a little bit. Oh, here we go.
Yikes.
Oh, that's part. I think that it's not Parsec. It's the other game that used the voice synthesis.
Oh. Oop.
Why
I don't know
we
what
have
game
all
this
these
is.
Oops. Oh, oops.
Yikes.
Come in
Because
here.
because the TI-99 4A did have a voice synthesis module that did voice.
They had bleep chips, and they had no division. They sold also
Yeah.
the Commodore 64.
So, all right. So you said there were 3 iconic soundtracks you thought of for Good Night Oak.
The first one that comes up is
NES.
Super Mario Brothers, right? Because that came with
Of course.
every NES imaginable,
right?
Pretty much.
But that was also iconic for so many reasons.
Yeah. No, it's carried throughout the years, and they've reused that soundtrack again and again and again in various different permutations, right? But it always kind of stays to that core, right? Legend of Zelda's another one, because that iconic come in.
Right, keep going. Yeah. I just wanted to. Thank you, Oak.
Early game sounds of music will give credit to being one of the first.
If you think about, all right, so I'm gonna hit this. I'm gonna bring this from a slightly different angle because I'm a musician. The nuance. It's not just that the chip did.
Oak. Have a good night, man.
Good night, brother Oak. It's not just the sound itself, right? Let me start this over. If you listen to the song and how it was designed, the nuance
the game
of
music how is it disruptive, Ron?
Hey, you wrong. Maybe it's too loud. Let me turn it down a little bit. But I want you guys to listen to the nuance in the sound itself, in the song, in the music itself. Koji Kondo, you're absolutely right. And not only, he spanned this across 3 games with 3 different incredible sounds. Like the Mario Brothers soundtracks are some of my favorites. As much as I was a Sega guy growing up, I had a ton of respect for Koji Kondo and what he did. This has a groove to it that is hard to understand how you got that into a Nintendo game, like with a syncopated beat like this. It's
well, the thing is how it rises and falls, easily loops back into itself, right? So you can listen to this for ages, and it just feels like one contiguous track. It doesn't feel like there's any breaks or stutters or anything into it. And that was the super nice thing about music in this era, in my opinion, is when you had a track like this that played in the background, it flowed into the game. The game felt like just part of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is number 2,
from Super
right?
Mario 2. I love this track.
Yes. These are songs that I actually took the time to learn to play. Like I can play the first one. I actually used from the N64. I know we're getting off track, but I think this is probably a great way to.
No, Mario 2, particularly with this da-da-da-da section in it. That's actually the amount of this sounding almost like real piano or real keyboard is.
It's ragtime.
Still to this day impressive because it's on an 8-bit cartridge. They had like no storage
space. Yeah, and it's basically ragtime.
No, then it really wasn't. It was a reskin and a rework. However, I still love that game, and I'll still call it Mario 2. It's just fun for me.
So, I want to show you something, because, and this is something this is how iconic the music is. On Friday nights, everybody knows I'm Jewish. Most everybody knows that I'm the music director at my temple. So I play piano on Friday nights. We have let's see what the last service was. We have a prayer we say every week for folks who have passed away, the anniversaries thereof. Give me a quick second, because this is, let's see.
Morris Isaac Gross,
I think
Louis
Hummus
Gross,
here is talking about the
Mark Jeffrey Tannenbaum,
the fight theme.
Betty
from Punch-Out.
Stout, Esther Ruth Posser.
No one? Yes, Punch Out. I'll get to that. Hang on.
And I think they're hearing me
So I want you guys
in the background. That's on me, guys. Sorry.
So I want you to, I don't know if you could hear. Let me see if I can turn this up just a hair.
It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope,
Listen to the music in the
dream,
background.
to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me.
Do you
Your
recognize
word was gifted to me.
It's very
remember
faint.
this brings
Sounds
a
a little
painful
bit
joy.
like Mario 1 music.
It's a
from
human
Super Mario
thing,
Bros.
love, a holy thing. To
It's
love what death.
Dire
has
Docks
touched.
from Nintendo 64.
And tonight we're
Okay.
From Super Mario 64.
honoring in memory of Bessie
I
Spire.
play that. Oh, well, Shalom, Arcade Pilot.
Yeah, the bike
I-
theme's really good.
But I found that
Co-head
I
of
found the theme. I found that Dire Docks, the underwater scene from Super Mario 64. I was searching for something to play because they always ask me to play music at certain points in service, as well
Right.
as the songs that I sing. I just started playing this at one point during this prayer for the dead, for mourning. It's a prayer of mourning, right? We do it every week, and it just flows, and it's such. I mean, that is what. I mean, I'm using a Koji Kondo piece of music in a religious service. That is how iconic his soundtracks are, and how much I love that. And let's say, as a Sega guy, as somebody who didn't have an NES, right, whose first Nintendo system was an N64.
It was the N64, yeah.
And that is, but you know, I as a musician, you know, I respect. That's why I love video game music. This is such a great topic for us tonight, because I love video game music to death, and you know, growing through this stuff, that is some of the best music out there. Zelda is so iconic.
Yeah, and another one, the third one that I found from there, primarily for me at least, was Metroid. Because the music in that isn't so much a driving beat, but it's atmospheric. It puts you into this feeling of almost dread and foreboding during the entirety of the game, right? Knowing that
Is there a
it kind of
specific-
makes you feel alone and isolated, and like you're on an alien world, right? You get that feel from that music, especially.
Is there a specific?
Kraid's theme, the opening theme, either one of those are great. Ridley's theme, I think, is also really good. I was about to say, this is definitely not it.
That's definitely not it.
But the starting theme, like the title theme, definitely immediately pulls your attention to that game. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It just kind of lets you know that you're going to be in this alien atmosphere. It doesn't sound like regular music at the time. Then it goes into this almost lullaby section as it hits, right?
Right. Now you said Ridley's theme. Is that Ridley's Hideout?
Kraid or Ridley. I think Brinstar is the name, maybe the name of the track. Because that would be Kraid.
Kraid's Hideout. Okay, here's Kraid.
And this, with all the other sound effects, it just kind of fills the gaps between action going on there and during the exploration.
See, that's...
The whole game is filled with music like that. The Super Metroid has a ton of music like that as well.
And this is Hirokazu Tanaka, who in his own right was also an amazing composer at the time.
Yeah, I agree, Arcade Pilot. Like, Super Metroid gets a lot of credit. But there's so much to be said about how these chiptunes work on the NES.
Mm-hmm.
This would be Ridley's area. It just feels like alien and hostile, right? And it also feels a little bit like you're in like a danger zone because a lot of Ridley's area is lava, right? So you kind of get this sort of lava zone vibe out of it.
Yep. Now I'm gonna give you another one because I learned to appreciate this theme, which you'll immediately recognize. This is another amazing
Castlevania is fucking amazing. No, this is from Castlevania 1. This is the first stage track.
Vampire Killer.
Yeah.
What's called Vampire Killer, which they've reused and reused and reused. This is another song that I learned to play. Like, I can play this.
The title gate for Shadowgate was creepy. I don't think I've ever heard that one.
Was that? I know what you're talking about.
Pull that one up for wrong.
Yep.
And then we should pull Bloody Tears as well, because that is probably one of the most iconic Castlevania tracks ever.
Let's go here. Is this the one?
See, that screams SNES to me.
Yeah. Yeah, this was like a dungeon crawler, just about.
Is this NES? Because this sounds closer to SNES to me.
No, this is NES.
Really?
Yep.
That's really clean. That is super clean. Yeah, pull up Bloody Tears and then we'll move to some SNES stuff because there's one comparison that I want to make that's going to blow your mind at how good it is. And we'll pull up some Genesis stuff too because there's some really iconic Genesis stuff.
Wix gives you the power of...
I'm going to mute during the commercials as best
that's fine. And then we need to get some Game Boy stuff up here because the Game Boy was straight up broken in audio. This track.
Oh, yeah.
This track hits hard.
There's another Castlevania track that I'm trying to think of that hits hard too.
It's probably trying to remember the name of it. It's from Symphony of the Night, most likely.
I don't know. I've heard it. It's part of a compilation that gets played at Video Games Live before. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. Now, there's one game in this arena that I want to, before we move to the SNES, that I think deserves a mention. Let me see, and I'll do the NES version of it, but.
Oh, speaking of this, you should pull the Commodore 64 version of this. It's shockingly good.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Arcade.
But this is that's probably Ghouls and Ghosts, not Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah.
Ghosts and Goblins, right. Commodore 64 is shockingly good.
This, another one that I can play. This fit this game to the T.
Commodore 64, isn't it?
No, this is the arcade.
That's the arcade?
I'm about to pull up C64. Alright, let's see. Which is also called Ghosts and Goblins. I could never figure out what
Ghosts
was
and
what.
Goblins is the first one. Ghouls and Ghosts is the second game.
Let's see. Let's see if I can get to it. Yeah, this doesn't sound like. Here's Ghouls and Ghosts, in case that's.
Oh, that's more the one I'm thinking of.
Okay. Alright, that's the intro. Here's stage 1.
It's shockingly good to me.
Absolutely.
For Commodore 64, that's freaking amazing.
I'll tell you what had, once you get into the next generation of those computers, the Atari ST and the Commodore Amiga, the quality of soundtrack just jumped.
Well, I
Like,
mean,
there's
it's like
some
the
of-
same. That's the same way of going to the Super NES and the Genesis. It was a world of difference. On
Oh, yeah.
paper, it
There are-
doesn't look that different between the two, but it was a radical change in sound.
Yes. Well, the Amiga and the Atari ST were kind of if you think about it, you're right. Like the difference between the Master System and the NES to the Genesis and the SNES, like it was that kind of generational jump.
Yeah.
In grab, but the sound, what they did with sampled, and that's where, computers started to kind of pull away a little bit. The sampling capability in the computer sound was crazy. And
yeah.
only
Honestly, though, there's to compare those two. Apparently, the SNES had a version of Doom. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
Oh yeah,
but the sound on
wasn't-
it is really
Yeah,
good.
here, it was a super. Yeah, it was a Super FX game. Let's see.
Yeah. This track.
The game itself wasn't that good, but the music was.
Dude, I was so shocked at how hard that track hit compared to the PC version. The PC version had much better, like, drum.
Well, so remember the difference. Essentially the PC version used MIDI.
Yes.
And so this was more samples.
Yes.
No, it was still the
you're
same
right,
kind of
Ron. We
data.
absolutely did. Well, and you had to. The thing is you had MIDIs and you had more room for audio on it because you were trying to draw people in through both visuals and audio to spend money in the arcade. On a console, you had silicone, which was expensive at the time, and memory, which was expensive at the time. So you're doing everything in a very, very small space, right? So when you're in that kind of like a small storage space kind of era, a lot of things get compressed or had to be done in a completely different way, either by doing it programmatically. Because a lot of times the composers on this would either write this music directly in hex, or they would make programs they would actually write their own programs that would translate the music that they're composing to something that these systems could use. And then they also had to work very closely with the developers of the actual games to make sure that all the sound effects they made, all the music keyed off at the right time, to make sure it had the right vibe. They were basically a major part of the development team. They weren't separate from the development team at all, right? So when you're getting this kind of stuff, and the sound chip on the Game Boy, oh my god, Batman for the Game Boy, Fall of the Foot Clan on the Game Boy, insane. Literally insane sound.
Well, now we're gonna. Do you want the? Here we go. Gotham City Stage 1. Now, I also want to bring up. This is where I wanted to also bring up some Genesis stuff too, because I think that. Is this the one?
Any of these work. The entire soundtrack, it was done by Sunsoft. That's all I'm saying. The Game Boy had no reason to go this hardcore, dude.
None whatsoever.
Like you weren't even remotely gonna get
Oh,
the
wait a
audio
minute.
out of this.
Hold on a second. You wrong. Hold on. Whoa, stop. You wrong said this is chaos. Geek is having a deep discussion. Mike's just jamming out. He's not too wrong. But this is my passion is the game music.
Dude, do yourself a favor, dig into some Game Boy music. This stuff is just bonkers.
Dude, the TMNT, you're absolutely right. The TMNT music
has just
too.
Like there's some tracks in there that just go absolutely ballistic for no real known reason. And it pulls it off. I'm like, there's so much going on that I can barely get my brain around what's happening in the track, but it's just amazing.
But speaking of Sunsoft, here is Genesis Batman from Sunsoft.
Oh, Genesis Batman has amazing music.
Right here, the first level.
Yeah.
I mean, this right here just...
Pretty much every track on that game's a banger.
Yes. I mean, that is just...
Yeah. I mean, if you really want, like, top-tier Genesis music, you go right to Streets of Rage 2, in my opinion.
Oh, God, yes. But even Streets of Rage 1 to an extent.
Yeah.
But Streets of Rage 2...
Sector's Warning Devil's Crush music on TurboGrafx 16? I don't think I ever played that. Blaster Master has an insane soundtrack. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
If you're on Sunsoft. Absolutely.
Oh, gosh, yeah. But I mean, if you... you're not wrong about Streets of Rage. Let me bring that up. Because Yuzo Koshiro, who's still around and doing stuff, here, we'll go with Streets of Rage 2. Well, I want to go with Streets of Rage, the first one, for one thing. The title theme. Because before anybody thought about 2, this and the way it brought the intro
I think they used the same theme on 2, because I've seen this on the soundtrack for 2.
They
I think they used the same intro music.
They kicked it up a notch. I mean, this just...
And see, this is the kind of thing... And this is where we can kind of discuss the difference between the SNES and the Genesis as far as sound chip goes. And I'll cover this on my video too. And then I want to pull up some links to some YouTube videos I found where people are actively creating music using tools for these consoles, because they're doing some really good work on Genesis music and Super Nintendo music. And so watching somebody who's actively doing that music and going through that kind of process and showing it to you is kind of like insane. Yeah, they absolutely could have used this for a Chrome drama.
Oh God, yes. So
absolutely, easily.
Let me see the first.
Apparently, users working on a new soundtrack for a Genesis game called Earthian.
He is. So this is still Streets of Rage 1, but I want to go to the one, because I think I know what you're... This.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just the soundtrack. I don't know if you guys hear it the same way I do. The stereo effect. I don't know if you can hear it left, right, or not through this.
Not especially through there. Music equal good, me likey.
Hey, Sai.
But I mean, if you want somebody to master the Genesis system, this is it.
Yes.
Like, this is peak, as far as I'm concerned. There's only one other person that comes close. But before we mention that and go on to that era, let's talk about why the Genesis was so funky. The Super Nintendo had one chip. It had an S-SMP sound chip made by Sony, and it allowed for you to add, like, samples. You could record an audio sample, it would get some compression, and then you could modify the attack velocity, the depth, all the different angles of that to make all the different notes on a particular instrument. So with very little space, you could alter one note off of most instruments and come up with an orchestra, right? That's how it did its music.
Yep, and it was 8-channel, which was great.
Right.
8-channel,
so it was very easy to make music for because it worked a lot more like modern synthesizers and a lot closer to what people were actually composing with, right? It was kind of one of the closest ones they got. And a lot of other systems were starting to do that around this time. Genesis took a different tact, which is why its music's sort of all over the board, right? Because it came with a Yamaha chip that was an FM synthesizer, right? It was an FM wave synthesizer. And then also, on top of that, came with the same sound chip, the same TI sound chip that was in the Master System. So it had two sound chips in it at the same time, and that was specifically for backwards compatibility. So they were thinking about the power converter when they built the Genesis. They just didn't put everything into the converter, right? I think the converter was basically to adjust the console to be able to take the carts and let the Genesis do most of the processing. So they had backwards compatibility from day one, right? But the thing was is you could use both of those at the same time.
To create stuff.
So you had actually more sound channels than the SNES had. The problem was that you still had to deal with doing it in hex with programs, and you really had to understand the hardware. And a lot of developers would use the initial sample sets of music that were in the Yamaha chip to just make games rapidly. But they wouldn't tweak any of those sounds, right? So a lot of that cheap, kind of janky crunch that you got out of it that wasn't as warm and hit as clean came because developers took shortcuts in the sound department, not because it couldn't do good sound.
Right.
So it took more time almost to come up and do more to get the work done properly, to be able to get the sound to come out of the Genesis the way you wanted, right, than you did with the Super Nintendo. Both of them needed to have some work done, primarily because if you're sampling something, you had to either record it at a sample size that once it got crunched down, it wouldn't be too compressed and the sound close to what you wanted, or you'd have to somehow tweak the sound so when it got compressed down to what the Super NES could use, you still came out with the right sound that you wanted, right, that you could work with. So even sampling wasn't the end-all be-all, it was just better.
Trying to look for... Because Sonic 2 did some of that. I'm trying to... Where is it?
The NES sounds great, but it's interesting. It's 32-bit, not 44.1. This is one of the reasons some of the Genesis version games sound better, like Thunder Force 3, Super NES, Thunder Spirits. Ain't bad, but it's no contrast, right? And it depended on how you worked the track. Because you're working directly with them, you could...
Well,
that's clean.
Well, you have to understand, too, that some of this comes down to the music composition as well. There were some beautiful SNES soundtracks out there.
Oh, there's a ton of Square. Anything by Square is amazing.
Anything by Square.
All of Zelda's music was amazing on there. The Mario music is amazing on there. There's tons of games that have Castlevania 4 has some gorgeous music. Just
that's where I was
cool
headed
music.
to Castlevania 4 next year.
Contra 3 had some really kick-ass music. There was tons of games that had amazing music on the SNES. It was.
Oh yeah.
And Hummus kind of sums it up. So the Genesis had greater potential technically, but practically the SNES was better. Depending on how people were approaching it and how fast they wanted to push through it. Yeah, a lot of the tracks that were done well on the Genesis tend to hold up a little bit better than the Super Nintendo era stuff, specifically because they didn't have any compression.
Yes. Here we go. There was I'm trying to think. There was a really. Yeah, but I'm trying to think. There's a better one for me.
Yeah, Castlevania 4 almost sounds like CD music.
Oh no, this is it. This had kick-ass drums too.
Yep. That snare.
Yeah, the reverb. I know. The reverb, I understand that.
And the reverb was kind of part of the compression, Scepter.
I mean, this was really good. And again, it comes down also to the composition.
Yes. Well, a good composer can work with them during this time. They had to have good knowledge of the hardware, right, to be able to get the sound that they wanted. So you had to be technically capable as well as musically inclined in order to be able to do the music.
Yep. Now, I want to give you something, because around this time, there were other players in the cartridge area that don't get any thought when it comes to music, and people sleep on the Neo Geo.
Oh no, Neo Geo had good music. It used a similar sound chip to the Super Nintendo.
Yes,
It
but I
used
want
more
to show.
sample-based. It didn't necessarily use FM-based.
I want to show
Yeah, Final
you.
Fantasy 2 and 3, Secret of Mana. Those are all fantastic soundtracks.
One of the. Let's see. No. This is a game
But you've
not
also
many
got to
people
remember
know.
the Neo Geo had a lot larger memory capacity per cart.
Absolutely.
It's basically the arcade board in
Yes.
the console, so it's sort of cheating in
was.
this era.
Well, yes, but where is it? If I need to, I can. Here we go. This is a game that not many people know of called Viewpoint. This hit hard.
Yeah, Zombie saying Afterburner Streets.
Oh,
and
God,
Goldax
yes.
are his go-to soundtracks from Sega.
Oh my goodness.
Neo Geo had the Yamaha 2610.
Yep. But you could just feel those drums.
Well, yeah, you could do a full sample on it, man, because it had like what, 200 and some odd megs
I
of
think this
storage
was
per card.
This was a 120 meg card, I think.
Yeah, I mean one of the biggest cards on the NE and the Super Nintendo, I want to say was like 80.
I mean, Sai should know this soundtrack. I mean, but most people did. I mean, it was so expensive that most people couldn't, really couldn't afford this. But if you could, this was the way to go. Oh,
It
Revenge
depended
of
if you were
Shinobi.
into SNK's game library, though. right? Because SNK
Yeah.
had its own kind of library, and you had to be down for that kind of vibe, and have a colossal amount of money. I mean, carts are $200 a pop, and the system was almost $700. I mean, if it didn't have better sound, I would have been pissed. If you'd had like Atari 7800 sound on freaking Neo Geo, I'd have been pissed.
Sure.
Got to throw in
Afterburner.
Revenge of Shinobi.
Oh,
Amazing
Revenge
soundtrack.
of
All the way
you
through.
guys
Pick
are-
any track.
Yes.
Any track.
You guys are forgetting one though. Hang on. You guys are forgetting one.
Space Harrier?
Space Harrier. I mean that. Think about it. You're running or you're flying through the air, shooting stuff coming at you.
Space Harrier was kind of a crazy game because you're basically running around with like a rocket under your arm, and then you're flying, hanging onto the thing for dear life.
Yes, but it was basically it was another one of the it was the big three of the super scalar games: Space Harrier, Afterburner, Outrun.
Yes.
But this was just such a wonderful.
I never played a whole lot of Space Harrier.
Love Space Harrier.
Zodiac EX actually has some bonus stages in it. It's an indie game that's meant to be a Star Fox clone, but when you collect these chips in there, it puts you into a Space Harrier type game as a bonus stage, which is kind of wild.
Scepter saying Outrun is pinnacle music of the era. I agree with that. It's Magical Sound Shower is still one of my favorite tracks. So
Yeah,
if you wanna go
ActRaiser
through-
had great music. Seventh Saga, I don't think I ever
ActRaiser
played.
had great music. But if you want to go through, so just to give you an idea, we played the Commodore 64 and the Master System, but the soundtrack that's made by live bands, I'll play this driving down the road.
I'm not recognizing this one off the top of my head.
No?
No.
This is Magical Sound Shower. This is Outrun.
Oh, I don't play Outrun, dude. You know me, I don't do racing games. The only time I see Outrun is when I see you guys playing Outrun. I don't dive into Outrun.
This is crazy music.
Yeah, if you want to talk arcade, you have to talk about Restan.
You do have to talk about Restan. Let's see.
Yeah, I never got into the Outrun series or racing games in general. I mean, kart racers, yes. Actual kind of like arcadey racing games and racing simulators.
Oh, even Mario Kart had some amazing music.
Yeah, Mario Kart has some great music in it. Hey, it's a Mario game. I mean, of course it's going to have good music. That would be Restan.
This would be Restan. Let's see. That's
The only thing that frustrated the crap out of me in this game, because it's a very fun Master System game even, but the having to press up and jump to do a high jump, it was kind of annoying. It was an Altered Beast as well.
You see, once we got into CD music is when
Music from a Conan movie. Yeah, because Rustam was
It really is,
basically
'cause that's
a barbarian
basically
character.
Conan. Yeah,
It was a total play off of Conan.
yeah. Once you got into the CD-based systems is when things really started to ratchet up. The Sega CD, the Saturn, the Dreamcast, the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2.
See, to me, that's where the disconnect kind of stopped, and part of the reason for that comes down to the fact that I don't feel like you really needed to have the sound direction tied so closely. to the actual art and game development standpoint, right? You could just, because it's on CD, you could just record and whatever you want. You don't have to do any extra work for it to be able to get it on there, right? So they give you an idea of what they want. You go off, you record it, then you bring it back and you hand it off to them, and that's pretty much your gig.
Sure, but there's still
like good soundtracks didn't come out of that. I mean, you know, you look at like freaking Halo, right? Is an amazing soundtrack.
Oh, but I'm going even deeper than that. So let me go to. Oh wait, now I can actually go to my PC because I now have a ton of this stuff ripped down. Music, video games. So let's talk about for example, and this game was not great as far as the actual conversion of this game itself, but
yeah, of course, our side. Lords of Thunder has an amazing soundtrack.
I was going there. Who brought up Afterburner? It was Zombie.
Yeah, Zombie brought up Afterburner. I think the N64 probably was because it was still silicone based and it didn't have that much more memory. And you're looking at like 64 megabits or so of like memory per card. I don't think the cards were very, very big.
There you go, Zombie. Final takeoff.
Henry.
Hey, what's up, Henry? Henny. Yep. Well, this was actually Zombie. This is not SST band. This is the soundtrack to Afterburner 3 on Sega CD. I don't remember who. I'd have to go and look at the manual to see who did the music for this. I don't think it was SST. It might have been. Let me check Moby.
Yeah, the N64 used a MIDI type system. So they were using these around the N64.
But it was beautiful stuff.
Oh no, they did great stuff on it, but at the time that they were coming out with that, you had like CD-based music that had been out for a while, or was coming around the bend, right? Because CDs were originally pretty much formatted to be a new way of doing music, right? They weren't really intended, it wasn't really built for video games. It got worked into being able to do video games because you're just storing ones and zeros, right? So you're just storing music digitally. So you can still do it. Now, DVDs made that significantly better because it was built more as like a combination format of both video and audio. GoldenEye 007, Crash Bandicoot,
GoldenEye was really good. Yep.
Anything off of Mario 64, Star Fox 64, I think had some really, really good music on it. Ocarina of Time had some stellar music on it.
Yes. Where was I going with this?
We haven't gone into the 80s Capcom's Arcade 10C. When I think Capcom, my brain immediately goes to like 90s and Street Fighter 2.
Oh my god!
Even the development of the music for that is insane.
Dude, I literally was clicking there. You know who this is. You know whose stage this is.
Oh god.
Now you should get it.
I was gonna say Ryu, but no, there it is. I would have caught it then. Now, the lady who made that music, the way she did the music was so funny because she would just make the music and then bring it in. So, because they had people assigned to different characters, right, during development, all kind of building their own character and their own theme. So they were involved in the stage design, like the backdrop for the character, as well as the character design itself. What she would do is she would make a bunch of music, and then she would bring it in and she would just play it. And somebody invariably would go, hey, I like that one. I'm going to take that one for my character. And that's how the themes got picked. So they were actually picked by the person who was working intently on the character, which I thought was a fantastic way of doing it.
Here's Ryu's stage. Now this is, of course, So Henny brought up a question, and it leads into something really interesting. Sonic 2 or was it Sonic 3 with the MJ soundtrack? Michael Jackson was a huge Sega fan.
I didn't play a lot
Huge
of Sonic
Sega
3.
fan.
Sonic 2 stands out to me, though. Just
It does. It
out
absolutely
of the
does.
Sonic games I played, which are 1 and 2 on the Genesis, I never played much of 3 or Sonic and Knuckles. 2 was my favorite.
2 is awesome. But Michael Jackson was such a fan of Sega that not only did he do Moonwalker, which was awesome, not only did he do the Moonwalker soundtrack for the arcade game, he is uncredited as
As the
contributing to
developer of the
Sonic
music
3.
for Sonic 3. Yeah, I knew about that.
For some of it. He also was the creator of some of the music later on for Space Channel 5 on the Dreamcast.
That's right. I had forgotten about Space Channel 5. Yep.
Which was also amazing. Like, there's so, and this is where we can go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I know
that's because of Michael Jackson's estate and them kind of being dicks.
Yes.
That's really what that boils down to.
There were so many. Like, and there were so many good developers outside of Japan that made music for stuff, right? You got Spencer Nielsen, you got Tommy Tallarico, you've got...
He was the other one I was going to bring up for Genesis, because the Earthworm Jim soundtrack...
Earthworm Jim,
There's
and
only
Terminator,
like one track
Sega
on
CD.
there I don't like, and I think it's the one that plays during the race with Psycho Chicken. I just don't care for that particular track.
Oh, yeah. Because it's more of a... I think are you thinking of the Bluegrass track?
Yeah, or it's some sort of like Caribbean beach track or something like that that doesn't fit with like anything
Oh,
else
I know what
that's
you're talking
going
about.
on.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I don't really care for that track.
But there's another guy that gets very...
Yeah, his favorite Zombie's like his favorite soundtrack for Tallarico is the Terminator one.
Oh, it's incredible. A lot of you guys know that until we created our own AI music, we used that for our intro video for the NLG show for years. But there's another guy that I think doesn't get a ton of credit, and it's the guy who wrote. Now, T.J. Burke is did the third game, but the original developer, the original composer of the Toe Jam and Earl soundtrack, does not get a ton of credit. But that is some of the coolest music that was on the Genesis. You know, that wasn't Batman and Sonic.
I know, even though it's not the most amazing game, I feel like Game Ground's got some solid music in it.
Game Ground has some solid music. Let me see if I can find.
Another one that we haven't mentioned is Toe Jam and Earl.
That's what I was just saying. And I'm looking for. There we go.
Yep.
Now this is from part 3.
Well, that's a variant on the main track that you're listening to on one.
It is. Yeah. I mean, this was wild for the time. You're welcome.
Jazz meets funk.
Yep. And here's a neat thing. Let me see if I can share my screen because you guys will get a kick out of this. So when I reviewed this game, the third game when it came out, I was one of a few outlets that actually liked Toe Jam and Earl 3. We had Greg Thomas on our
Got
show.
the Toe Jam and Earl soundtrack on vinyl.
Well,
I kind of want to pick up
show
some game soundtracks on vinyl. I don't really have any of them.
I don't know if I've shown. I don't think some of you guys have seen this. Give me a second to find it. Here we go. So when I reviewed Toe Jam and Earl 3 for when NLG was a website, I gave it a pretty decent score. I gave it like an 85, 86. I was one of the few people that really liked it, even though it went in a different direction. Greg Thomas, when we had him on our show, said he really wasn't even a fan of it because Sega really wanted him, kind of forced him into doing a 3D game he didn't want to do. And I said to him then, I'm like, yeah, but
I don't know if you could say there's too many.
it's a good job. So, long story short, let me see if I can share my screen here. Long story short, after I reviewed that game,
The stream's giving me Saturday afternoon vibes. Nice.
There you go. I was talking to my Sega rep, and he's like, man, he's like, dude, did you really like this game, or are you just blowing smoke because you like Sega?
See,
I'm like, no, dude,
like
I
a
really
huge Toe Jam and Earl fan, and the main reason wasn't the gameplay and wasn't the vibe of the game. It was all the randomness.
Well, so there wasn't a lot of randomness in 3, but again, 3 was a different game. But I told him his name was Chase. He never had a last name. We just called him Chase. I don't know why. I said, no, dude, I legitimately like this game. So Greg Thomas got a hold of me and said, I really liked your review. Is there anything I could do for you? Is there something I could, I'm like, no, not really. I'm not trying to, people don't, buy the review scores from me. Now, this was after I reviewed the game, so I had never met Greg. I'm like, but I'll tell you what, I'm a piano player. I have always wanted to learn how to play the theme song. Next thing you know, let me see if this shows up on screen.
I may have to pull in a separate link. Yeah, this is going to be... All right, let me see if I can do this.
Hey, kitty! We got a kitty pounce.
We got a kitty pounce! Hey, Pixel!
Sister kitty!
I'm not sure how I'm gonna how am I gonna do this? We are going to do
It's weird that it won't.
Look into this. I'll have to add a browser source.
Okay, so it shows it as a file.
It shows it as a source in video, basically.
Okay. Lake, what's up, brother Lake? Lake's in the house.
I apologize for not saying hi to everybody. I'm trying to get something added in here.
Yeah, I threw him a curveball.
Yeah, he's throwing some weird stuff in here tonight that
All
I
right.
have to kind of throw in here.
Stuff. No, you guys will like this.
No, it's fine. It's just I'm just gonna put this full screen over us.
Okay, that's fine. So in November of 2002, I get this email from, his name is Burke T from Open Door Productions. See, look, I emailed him back and said, there's one thing you might be able to do for me. You wouldn't happen to have a chord chart for the Toe Jam and Earl theme, do you? I know someone who might be able to write the chords out for keyboard. I have this beautiful Yamaha Clavinova with the perfect beat for it, and I have the melody, but I can't figure the chord structure out. Just a shot in the dark. That is what I sent to Sega. And next thing you know, I get this email from the guy who wrote it, who wrote the music you were just listening to for the Xbox.
I think you've shown this once before, but it was back when we actually did the show for Toe Jam and Earl.
Got it. And he was like, hey, Mike, I never really sat down and officially charted this out, but he did it for me. And he charted the freaking theme out for me.
Nice. I remember distinctly seeing this email once before, but that's when we were doing the show just on YouTube before we moved over to Rumble. And that's when we still had
people on
Matthews
Rumble
and
probably
we were
haven't
doing
seen it.
Like the monthly game, and then we were coming back and talking about the game.
Yeah, that's probably, and so people on Rumble haven't seen this because I haven't shown this.
No, they haven't. They haven't seen
Rumble.
any of this.
But this, I mean, there are certain things. There are certain things that have happened in my gaming journalism career that I really take to heart. And really kind of cherish.
Hi, by the way, like, sorry I didn't say hi when you came in. I was trying to figure something out. There's JDA Delete. He's popping in as well. Good to see you, man.
So
There's a
that's
bunch
one of my
GNC
shiny
Garbies.
things. So,
Yamaha
thanks,
DS
Thomas.
21 at Goodwill, which actually had a Genesis YM2612 in it. Oh, you can actually add the Genesis soundbakes to it. That's kind of cool. Sorry, I'm catching up on everybody's chat after I was figuring out the new technical difficulties that might throw me as far as a curveball, which didn't take that long. It just looked weird setting it up on the screen because I wasn't looking for him to share his screen tonight. So that was new. Welcome to RetroRoots. So thank you everybody who's popped in. So where were we at? We talked about Toe Jam and Earl. We talked a lot about the Genesis. We've skipped a lot of the key Super Nintendo soundtracks, I feel like. We did a slight dip into Game Boy. The Game Gear, I went looking for a lot of its better music. Like Streets of Rage 2 was like the best I could think of on the Game Gear. There was a lot of stuff that was on there, but a lot of it just missed for me for whatever reason. It sounded more Master System-y, which I guess is kind of what it was based off of, so that kind of makes sense that it just didn't translate as well as like the Game Boys for whatever reason, even though they're a similar era. I don't know why they didn't try to rework that a little bit. The N64, we've done some of its music. We haven't pulled up anything from like Star Fox 64 or anything like that. Sonic the Hedgehog and Game Gear was decent. Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, it was all right.
But when I look at it compared to like Genesis or anything else where I initially ran into the game, it's a little brutal quality-wise, and I think that's the down conversion to basically make it more on an 8-bit system. Because if I remember, the Game Gear was 8-bit. Its big advantage was being color at a time where the most popular handheld on the market was, well, in theory, black and white, but it was more like greenish gray. Realistically, for those of us who were playing it on the initial console. And then you had the Lynx, which I don't really remember much coming out of the Lynx as far as... Atari was never really well known for a lot of their music, from what I can tell. People love their games, but a lot of their music tracks are just... Like, the 2600 didn't really have anything. The 5200 was a bit of a jump. The 7600 was more like the 2600. Their computers were doing some work. But when you're looking at like their consoles, the closest that they would have would really be like Jaguar. And I think some of the best soundtracks that came out of that weren't really done by Atari themselves.
Give me a second, because I'm trying to remember if
we're doing good, Pixel. It's good to see you, by the way.
I think Tempest and Defender 2000 were certainly. I mean, those were.
Yeah, except for saying like Tempest. Yeah, Atari just wasn't really well known for music.
It was Interplay. No, it never was. But Tempest and Defender 2000 were insane.
Yeah. I mean, I know the Neo Geo had good music. The PlayStation had great music across the board because it's PlayStation had a CD system.
Yep. The Saturn had some incredible soundtrack.
Calculator didn't have a sound card.
There were. I mean, you really. The amount of incredible soundtracks that came out of the CD-based systems were. Let me see if I can find.
To be fair, guys, on my video, I focused more on the very early days through the 16-bit era.
That's fair.
I didn't focus much past that, primarily because that's where CD music hit. And while there's some great soundtracks in that era, I feel like there was kind of a step lost with developers and musicians that started happening around that time. And more modern music suffers from more than older generations, like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Xbox 360.
So I want to I'd like to address that though, because
I mean, it
think
definitely
that
opened
the
the barn
reason-
doors, because then you could just compose music. You didn't have to do any weird tricks to get it in anywhere. You could just record it. Because you have
Yes,
plenty of,
but you
when you
still-
had plenty of space too, you didn't have to down convert anything.
No, you did not. What I would say is you still have to, in that, okay, so in the day of the older systems, I'm going to go Sega CD, Saturn, PlayStation, I would say up until you got into
You'd
the
have to put the
Dreamcast
Turbo Duo in there
PS2.
too with
Turbo Duo.
Lords
Yeah,
of
I would
Thunder.
put the Turbo. I put the Turbo 16 in there. The reason that and what you're listening to now is Batman Returns on Sega CD, right? This is one of the driving stages. You still had to develop music to go into the game more than I think you do now. Like a lot of music now is not even built for the. Some of it's not even built for the game. It's
That's
licensed
my big
tracks.
problem with more modern music development is they're either licensing music and they're just putting it in the game, or the music that they're building almost at times seems to conflict with what's going on in the game.
Yes. And where I think the PlayStation, the Saturn, the Sega CD, where that became different, where that hit differently from a musical standpoint.
Yeah, that was the transitional phase. I'd say all the way up to close to the PS3, they were working to make the music sort of enhance the game. Like, for me, some of the pinnacle CD level music is probably from StarCraft.
I would agree with that, but
that's probably some of the best. Like, you hear that and you kind of want to boot up the game and play the game immediately.
Yep.
Particularly like the main Terran theme, the dun 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 dun.
I went
and
downloaded the soundtrack after I watched her stream.
Yeah, it's an
here's
amazing
Lords of
soundtrack,
Thunder
man.
for those who, and I don't know why my browser's having a little bit of an issue tonight where it has to.
It's ironic that I think more people enjoyed watching me beat my head against StarCraft than I think enjoyed watching me play Gunstar Heroes and Monster Hunter Rise.
No doubt. Let me see.
Nintendo's first party stuff, they're still building music for the games. Absolutely. Yeah, when it comes to Nintendo stuff, they're primarily building it specifically for the game. But you can't even necessarily... The problem is that I have is, like, even Sonic Team doesn't necessarily seem to be building stuff directly for their games. Like, Frontiers,
Not
as much as I
anymore.
thought Frontiers was a pretty solid game, the problem I have with it is some of the music didn't really seem to fit the vibe of a Sonic game. Right?
Yeah.
It was kind of discordant with what you were trying to do in the game.
Absolutely. So
And
here's
I feel that way with a lot
here's
of more
Lords of
games.
Thunder.
Like, you'll see, like, you have, like, some, hey, Sonic, how you doing? Welcome, man. I don't think I've seen you in chat
Hey,
before. It's
Sonic.
good to see you. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in, hanging out with us. We're on the very tail end of our music stream here.
So I'll give Zombie a little bit of Terminator as well.
Yeah, Terminators. I never played a lot of Terminator and Sega CD. I need to see if I can get some Sega CD stuff downloaded for Genesis and get that running. Do you need
Here,
like a different
Destination
BIOS or anything like that to run the Sega CD stuff? Or does it have its
You
own
do, but it's
BIOS?
easy to get. No, you can get it. The BIOSes are easy to get.
Yeah.
Now, this is really funny. This particular track I'm playing is called Destinations Unknown. And this is on YouTube. You could find it. Tommy showed this to me. This was a song his band in the 80s did. This has lyrics that aren't in this.
Yeah.
But he had lyrics for this song. So,
Okay, so you need the CD BIOS. Okay, got it.
Yeah, but it's I can even get you that. That's easy. I didn't say
fine.
that
I
out
need to
loud,
set it up at
FBI.
some point because I'm running through Genesis games and there's still a lot of them to play. But at some point, I do want to start dipping into the CD stuff because one, it's been forever since I played a lot of them, and two, I didn't own a ton of them. So there's a lot of that stuff that I just didn't pick up.
Oh, there's some so good stuff. But
Oh, I have no
what
doubt
I
about
was
that.
getting-
I know there's tons of good stuff in there. Some of it I picked up, some of it I didn't.
what I was getting at with why the music in these first set of CD consoles was still very important and different than modern day music. The one thing that you don't have now that you had to account for back then was something had to sell you. Graphics were still 64 and 256 colors on screen, right?
Yeah.
You can only do so much graphically, where you don't have to worry about that now. What sold you on CD-based systems, what made you want to spend the extra money was music.
Oh, it was the audio,
So-
for sure.
You really had to concentrate on what made a good music, right? And even recreating one of the
I'm going to bring this one up a few times so he sees this after.
I did. I just played a Lord of Thunder track.
Okay.
One of the knocks on the Sega CD, which is a legitimate knock, is that a lot of the games that did come out were Genesis games that simply had CD soundtracks remade for them.
Right.
The game that launched originally, not on the second model with Sewer Shark, on the first model, was a full motion video game, Sherlock Holmes, a 3-pack of Streets of Rage, Columns, and Golden Axe, and a game called Soul Feast, which was more or less just a Genesis port of the game Soul Dees on Genesis. However, not playing Soul Dees myself and hearing this game for the first time, I was greeted to this. And this is a shmup. This is picture a horizontal shmup.
Yeah, that's the vibe I
And
got from the very beginning.
And I'm like, holy crap, I have not heard something like this. Not even in the Neo Geo, not even in the Genesis, not even in the Super Nintendo. Like, this was, and I'm like, holy crap. And it got me into the game. I later come to listen to the Genesis version, and the Genesis version has this exact same track, but this hits differently.
Well, it should. It's got
It does.
CD level
Right.
sound. And that was the big selling
Exactly.
point with those, right? When the PlayStation hit, it was a graphical update as well. But when you're talking the initial, like, Turbo CD, the Sega CD, stuff like that, and the, well, scrapped Super Famicom CD, which eventually became the PlayStation, you were going to be looking at an increase in sound effects, an increase in audio fidelity as far as the not only sounds but soundtracks primarily, because that was their first jump. Now you had some full motion video, but CDs weren't really good for video. Anybody who's looked at videos, like if you had a copy of the first release of like Mortal Kombat, it's terrible. It's great for the time, but it's absolutely grainy, F&V looking, and they all kind of look that way. And it's just how video worked on CDs.
Yep.
And RK Pop, that is my criticism. My criticism is exactly what you stated. It's actual songs from live artists because of the CD technology. I don't want that. What I want is somebody who custom makes tracks
Right.
for the game, tailored for the game. That's
Like
what I mean by
this.
I feel like music missed a step when
I
CDs
agree
started coming out,
wholeheartedly.
because the further you get into the modern era of gaming, the more they would rather license some Dr. Dre track or Eminem track or something like that, or anything hip hop seems to be the thing now, especially in fighting games, and they'll slap it in the fighting game. I want Mortal Kombat 1 through Mortal Kombat 3 soundtracks style things that were tailored for the stage you were on, for the person you were fighting. I don't want some random hip hop song that I don't give a crap for. I always go for something in the Twisted Metal series with some Rob Zombie or anything from the Final Fantasy series where you get an emotion from the story and atmosphere. Yeah, Final Fantasy has been very good about making the music match with their game. One that almost becomes discordant to me in the modern era, and particularly in the fighting game arena because I've been playing a lot of it, to me becomes Guilty Gear. Now, I know a lot of people love those tracks, but I find there's so many sound effects and things going on in the game. Giving me a heavy metal track in the background with vocals hurts. It becomes like physically painful and gives me a headache after a while. Right? I don't want lyrics in my video game music. What I want is something that can play in the background, like fight music. Like, and I've seen some RPGs that have done this, turn-based RPGs, that'll have battle tracks that'll have like vocals in it, and it's awful. Particularly when you're in a 45-minute to hour-long slog of a battle and you're hearing that same loop over and over again, you end up turning all the audio off on your system. Because, in my case, it starts to give me a headache. And I find the same thing with some of those games. Like, the music just doesn't fit. It doesn't work long-term. It doesn't... The nice thing that happened with a lot of the earlier music, and the earlier CD music to the same point, is... In some parts, it was a simpler melody because it had to be because of the space. The other thing that worked well with this kind of music is it looped in on itself, where it kind of became a background theme that helped keep you focused on the game rather than something that tried to pull you away from the game. And that's my big problem with a lot of modern music, is it's competing for your attention. The game wants your attention, but the track wants your attention too. And I find that becomes a big problem for me in particular.
Yeah. So if I told you that this music right here
This sounds like something
was
like Crash Bandicoot or something.
close, Chuck Rock,
Never even
which
heard
was
of
like a Chuck Rock was like a
Crash Bandicoot vibe though.
it's a platformer about it's like a prehistoric platformer, sort of like BC.
Okay. So kind of like Bonk and such.
Kinda.
Or Joe Mac, which is another one.
Kind of. But this fits. Like if you looked at the level, this fits what he's doing. Like you hear the birds chirping in the background and all that stuff. I mean,
one game I can think of from the CD era that actually had lyrics that were written for the game was Sonic Adventure 2, the first stage. Yeah. And I think the original Sonic Adventure actually had some tracks that were like that too. And those weren't too bad. But I found a lot of those, especially like fight music on some games. And by fight music, I mean like battle music on like a JRPG, where you might be spending a lot of time going through menus, trying to figure out and playing your next couple moves and things like that. Stuff like that has to kind of like fade a little bit into the background and not be offensive while you're trying to think about what you need to do.
Yep.
Chuck Rock is a bit like Joe and Mac. Okay, so I was close.
It's a bit like Joe and Mac, yeah. But you know, the other thing that music did back then that it just doesn't do now is tell a story. And I can't think of a game that exemplifies that more than
BGM
Lunar.
with lyrics and Sonic, but one of her favorite BGMs from a Sonic game actually has lyric. Which one is that, Pixel?
Tell me it's hold on. Please tell me it's this. Hold on. I think I know the one you're talking about. Give it a second. I don't know. My browser is just.
And we may or may not get claimed on you for this, YouTube on for this, and if we do, I don't care. I legit don't care. They can have it.
Give me one quick second. I'm for whatever crazy reason, I'm having a heck of a time with.
Older one, I think, oldish. Was it 3D Pixel?
Hang on. All right, let me see if I can. Let's see if it'll come up now. I found it. Okay. Let me see. Here we go. Tell me it's this.
She thinks it's 3D, and I think you're pulling up Sonic CD. Yeah, you're definitely pulling up Sonic CD.
That's Sonic CD.
I knew Mike was going to go to Sonic CD, not because I know that game very well, but because I know Mike and I know Sonic CD.
Well, when she said there was a
Mike
song
needs a
with...
long time when he plays with his Sonic CD game.
Well, she said there was a song that had lyrics. This is the one that I can think of that has lyrics. And this was actually done by...
This was not the one Pixel was talking about.
Okay.
Survey says, nah.
Well, you know, there was a time, too, when some of these games were done not just by, you know, like Spencer Nielsen wrote this song, but it was performed by a group called Pastiche. And it was, they were a female vocal group of, what are their names? Sandy Cressman, Jenny Meltzer, and...
It's the song Live It and Learn.
Becky Webb.
Okay. Hold on.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on, I might...
Sonic Adventure 2.
Because there was another one. There was another Sonic. There was another Sonic game. Sonic... oh, crap.
Our audio's not good. Audio on what, Convoluted? Our voice audio or the soundtrack audio that we're playing?
You know what? There was a bunch of them on Sonic R, which was a...
Well, Live and Learn is from Sonic Adventure 2, by the way. That's the one she said it was.
All right, let me look it up. Let me...
And I'm trying to figure out what Convoluted means by audio not being good. I'm not sure which audio he's talking about. Okay, the soundtrack's echoey. It's coming from Mike's computer, so it's probably going to be a little echoey because I think he's playing it through his speakers because he's not using headphones. So part of it's probably being caught on his microphone. And Mike sounds distorted, and that's probably because I've got him in on two sources.
Oh, that could be.
He's got his audio coming through, so he's probably a little distorted for that reason. That's why.
There we go, Pixel. I like when we make Pixel happy. She's such a sweet kitty.
She's great.
She really is.
Yeah, you sharing your screen, Mike, I think is probably giving you a bit of echo in there.
I'm not sharing my screen.
Well, with you having the music come through, I think it's probably doing something to your audio. Concept is saying that you're a little echoey and the soundtrack's echoey. It's probably how it's getting pumped through.
I don't know. Is anybody else hearing the echo?
I think everybody else is just doing it because it's the best way we can get the audio out. I mean, I can play it through mine, but then you can't hear it.
Nobody else has said anything, so... That's good. I forgot about this track.
It's very 80s hair bandish.
Yup.
Okay, now for music. It's more distortion than echo. Okay. Yeah, I hear a little bit of distortion in it, yeah.
I've got it turned down as well. Let me turn down. Here. Let me kick the gain down.
Well,
a
I
little
mean,
bit.
if we want to highlight the track, we'd have to bump it up. If we're wanting to talk, then we should probably bump it down.
Yeah.
Had growing up on 80s music. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There we
If
go.
they had you growing up on stuff like, Slaughter, White Shark, Great White, stuff like that, Poison, those are all like 80s hair bands that almost nobody remembers except for me because I'm freaking old. Yeah, they would all kind of have this vibe. Motley Crue had this vibe back in the day.
Sonic, now that I think of it, there was a ton of Sonic music out there that had lyrics. A lot of it hit really heavy.
And it would be some of the fewer ones that did. I'm not saying all of them are bad, but I found my preference oftentimes was to stuff that didn't have lyrics and just had a good beat that could kind of fade into just kind of work with the other sounds going into the game. I think the problem I have with a lot of lyrics in a lot of games. What's up, Vinny? Good to see you, man.
Hey, Vinny, here's a great track. This was from the very non-liked Sonic 2006 game. Here.
Yeah, I never played
It's
that
also-
one. I heard nothing good about Sonic 2006 from the gameplay
No,
to the story to anything. It was universally reviled from what I could tell.
But this track hit hard.
Come on, let the fugees are rocking and he's ready to go. Cause now the countdown has started and he's ready to blow. He's got the dope sounds bumping and his stereo. Yo, fast, and on the show.
So this is what I classify as like new metal. It's sort of Limp Bizkit-y, sort of POD. But not nearly that good.
In this world, where life is strong. In this world,
This makes me think of Knuckles. Yeah, I could see that.
I don't feel like this is Linkin Park.
It's not.
Because
It's,
that lead vocalist that came in is bad.
Yeah, it's Maddie.
It was better before he came in.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Like, he just came in and stomped on the track. He's like, no, I'm the lead vocalist, so I'm going to be in here. And I'm like, you really don't need to be. You could have stayed home today.
Maybe like, there's another, you guys won't know this, but, I always like the Sega Saturn as well. There was a band, and I can never find anything else about them. They were called the Bygone Dogs. And apparently, at one point in time, they were like really...
All right, Pixel's
You
got
must
work
have
in the
been
morning,
big
so
in
she's gotta
some
head
way.
out. We're almost done here.
Yeah.
Pixel. We could probably talk about this for more hours, but Mike can't get on here earlier than he can, so we have limited time because we both have to work in the morning.
Oh, if we wanted to do more music stuff, I could make it. I could figure it out.
If we want to do this again, what I want to do is I want to get one or two more people in here, and I want to more get together and plan it out. I would like to start doing that anyway, because we kind of shoot from the hip, and that works fine to a certain extent, but certain topics I feel like it doesn't work as well.
I kind of figured we would kind of. I don't know. This is such a. It's such a subjective topic, but there aren't a whole lot of wrong answers.
No, there's not. And everything's going to have, almost all soundtracks are going to have fans. Like, I know plenty of people that really like the Guilty Gear Strive soundtrack, even though I find that the tracks individually themselves are fine, but when I have them in the game, it's not as good, right? That's what I mean by
Right.
conflicting. For me, those conflict, because independently on their own, they're fine. I like them. I think they sound good. When I have them in the game with everything that's going on in the game, because it's such a bombastic game with so many sounds, I don't feel like it hits the same way. Whereas you put Killer Instinct 2013 and you have the game music with the soundtrack, and even though a lot of those have lyrics, they work, right?
Right.
So it kind of depends on how it jives with the game. Like some games I feel like really nail it, and other games not so much.
Well, like a track like this, like if you played Cyber Speedway, which is the game this is, it's kind of a,
like you could
it
throw
was
this
kind
in
of
a
like
run
a,
game, you could throw this in a GTA game, and it would be fine. You have it on like a radio
Yes.
station, right? And you're just listening to it as you're doing whatever it is you're doing. And that works fine.
yeah. Yeah. This was one of the tracks in that game. The game itself has not aged well at all. It really hasn't. And if you look, this was sort of supposed to be like a Wipeout type game.
Yeah,
But
I get a little bit of like California pop or funk.
yeah, so this was, well, it's kind of funny because this group was a band out of San Carlos, California. They made
That
one album.
explains the vibe.
Yes, they made one album, which was actually produced by Spencer Nielsen and recorded at Sega.
God, he sounds a bit like Elvis.
A little bit. This track, the instrumental track, is in the game, but they released this as a full album.
And Thomas, I think you're right. It's almost like sometimes the development teams preferably throw stuff at a wall and hope it sticks. And I think that happens from a development standpoint, and I think that happens from a sound standpoint. Like, I think somebody has the idea that this is going to be a great track and it's really going to work, and then by the time you get through the development process and everything's fleshed out, the track that they paid all this money for, that they thought was just going to, like, slap, which I feel bad actually even using that term, kind of falls flat, right? Or it just, it's fighting so hard for your attention that it almost becomes like it's just distracting, right? And that's what becomes the problem. Now, Final Fantasy generally doesn't have this problem. Nintendo's first party generally doesn't have this problem. Sega will randomly have this problem with certain games, particularly the Sonic team will have this problem from time to time. Not always. They've had some great bangers, and they've had a lot of really, really good luck with a lot of the tracks they put in there, particularly the earlier stuff. Frontiers being one of the exceptions. A slap is another term for cool or good or awesome or groovy or take your pick, right? They'll say this track's fire, or this track slaps, or some shit like that. Now I don't know. It's a young person term. Fire is one of those terms that I think just sounds stupid because they're doing it because they're throwing up the emoji, and then people are now just saying like fire, like people are literally saying LOL, and I'm like, just laugh. You're not texting me. I'm old.
Hell,
it's fine.
My son Seth does that to me, and I'm like, dude, don't do that to me.
Like,
do not say the word LOL, please.
You should not be verbalizing LOL. You should just laugh.
Exactly. Just.
If you're texting me and you say LOL, I totally get that.
Right. But don't. Yeah.
Do you still do bodacious? I mean, I'm totally down for you using bodacious if you want to. I mean, totally, I know
totally
that
tubular,
I
dude.
think Ninja Turtles every time you say that, and I'm totally happy with that, for the record.
Totally tubular, dude.
That's right. So I think we covered about as much as we can probably cover in the just over 2 hours that we've been. We should probably wind this down with what you're doing this week on your channel, Mike. And I'll go what I'm doing, and then we'll probably let all these nice people get about the rest of their evening, I think.
All right. Tomorrow's the NLG show. I have no idea what we're talking about.
I feel that way about this
there's
show. I keep meaning to like get a hold of you like a week in advance and then plan
well,
out stuff, and I never do.
yeah, and I think part of it is we're in somewhat of a lull with gaming news, and I don't know. I'm also I'm having all right. I'm having a much harder time now with modern day gaming. If anybody's watched me over the last, I'd say, year,
Yeah, you're not doing much of it
a,
anymore.
a lot of my streams are retro or
Yeah.
retro oriented.
Yeah, you've
And
focused far more on retro, and Peter has still done a lot of modern.
yep, which is great. And I did so the last 2 weeks I've done Still Wakes the Deep, which is a good game. Really good game, solid. I played Starfield Sunday night. I still enjoy Starfield. It's not, but there is something fundamentally for me just
I
not working in this generation.
I found
And
Starfield like I was into it for about close to 20 hours, and then I was just like something in my brain went bored now, and I just stopped playing it. And I've had no urge to go back. Like there's
I
been no
didn't
itch in the back of my brain to go back and to push through that campaign.
I didn't either, but when I went last night, what I realized I was doing was I was a bunch of activities and a bunch of side stuff that I'm still working on. Like I have not done the main. I have not gone back to Constellation since the first mission, real mission with Sarah. I've been
Okay.
off gallivanting. Like I'm sure she's like back at headquarters, like in her room on her bed crying because I've been gone for weeks.
The other thing
I
I
have
found weird
been
about that game is everybody falls in love with you and like after like 2 dialogue options. It's weird.
well, that's Mass Effect style stuff for
Like
you right there.
I had the one dude who gave you the ship, the initial guy you meet from Constellation, the black dude whose name I can't recall right
Yep,
now.
I know what you're talking about.
He almost started
Yeah.
hitting me after like 2 dialogue options on a planet, and I'm like, the hell is going on?
All right, please stop. Right. Yeah, please get away from me.
I'm like,
Um,
boundaries,
but
man.
yeah, dude, that's you, not me.
Even
But
Sarah, basically, after like one quest,
oh
is
my
always
God,
like, so you
Sarah,
want to come back to my room? And I'm like,
yeah.
what's going
I'm
on?
like, dude, I literally is like, I was like, no, I want to go. Let me go check out the cosmos for a bit. I'll be right back. It's like I said, hey, I'm gonna go for milk, and I haven't been back
Like
since.
Mass Effect, I went through like over half the game before they even started even remotely hinting at like romantic options.
Oh
You
no,
know,
I had almost instantaneous sex with like 3 of those characters. 3 of the
you must
women
be
on
thinking the
there. I
first one
was.
was not like that, man. It took me like half the game or more to
Oh
romance
no,
them.
I must have had a good hit
Yeah,
on
you
the
must have hit
dialogue
something
because
on the dialogue options I did not
yeah,
find on
because
there, but it was
once
ridiculous.
yeah,
Just
I,
like
I
okie
I had
dokie.
I had alien love very early in that game. Um, but I'm still so I what I am finding is by going through the ulterior stuff, I'm at least going out. The one thing I haven't done in Starfield yet, which I don't even know how to do at this point, is build a uh, outpost.
Oh,
And
there's
I've
like an
seen people.
entire set of quests that kind of teach you that, by the way.
Yeah, I probably
I
haven't
think they're
gotten there
on
yet,
like the
which is probably
board at
why.
Constellation somewhere where they'll ask you to do certain things.
That's probably
And
why
yeah,
because
it's
I
down
haven't
in the
unlocked that
basement.
ability yet.
We can talk about that later because I think I know where you can learn that off the top of my
Yeah, I
head.
haven't because no, it won't let me do anything. It keeps telling me everything's restricted. So it
Yeah.
probably is just so. But I mean, honestly, the big things that I'm doing right now. So we're gonna have the show on Tuesday, and I have no idea what Peter and I are gonna talk about. Wednesday, Peter will be back for NLG Live. He'll do. I'm not sure what he's doing at this point because he started playing Alan Wake 2, and even he's gotten bored of that. Thursday, I will be back with Thursday Night at the Arcade, which is my weekly Antstream Arcade
Yeah.
show with my X Arcade stick, and I go through all the challenges, and people get to see me rage out just a little bit. and then we play the new games that get announced, which will get announced tomorrow.
Thanks for hanging
and
out
then
with us. I'm glad you had a good time, man.
yeah, and then anybody who wants to suggest a game, in the description of that stream is the end stream list. I will play whatever game anybody wants me to play. So that's that. Friday night is Friday night with Peter and Mike. We'll do whatever multiplayer thing we do. We've been doing Dead Island 2, which I am really enjoying.
Dead Island, that series I think is good if you're playing with friends. I think if you're playing solo, it's kind of boring.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I found with the first one.
Yeah,
it's sort of boring.
Dying
Light.
Dying Light's the same way.
Second one, but I imagine if you had a couple people to play with, it'd probably be fun. Same way with Back for Blood. Like Back for Blood, I was in that one solo, and then they removed the single player option and said it was coming soon, and then made you join up with like randoms or have a group, and I'm like, okay, I just won't play this game anymore, I guess. Because I didn't have a full group I wanted to run with, and I didn't want to bring random people in. I just wanted to play the game.
Yeah. I haven't played Back for Blood since the time we played.
Yeah, I haven't touched it since then either. I think shortly after that is when they removed the single player option for a while, with the promise that it was coming back, and I'm like, but it was here.
Yeah.
Why did you remove it?
Yeah. So, and then I'll be back on Sunday. So that's my whole week.
Yeah. All I have going on is I'm going to try to get Final Fantasy with friends back on track. I want to get my buddy Rob in with me because we've been trying to push the main story, and because we tend to do things in person on Thursdays, I've been wanting to move him in on Tuesday and do it then. And if Fused and some of the other guys want to do something, we can jump in and do stuff with them at that point on that part of the session. Otherwise, we can just kind of run the main story stuff on our own between the two of us and chit-chat with you guys while we're doing it. Wednesday's probably still going to be fight night. I think I'm going to stay engaged in that. I need to get some more time to be able to play some of it on the side because I'm finding they're just way ahead of me on a lot of these games and I'm not adapting as well as I would like. So I need to put more time into them. I just got to find time to do it. That's the problem. It's finding time.
Definitely.
And then Thursday's pretty much out. Friday's pretty much out. Saturday and Sunday. Sunday's going to stay Sega Sunday. So if you guys are up for that, I don't know what game I'm going to play, but I'm going to start trying to plan those out in advance. I'm thinking about paying for the Rumble service so I can schedule 8 days out. Thinking about just doing that. That way I can schedule things out further and kind of lock in what I'm playing sooner. And that'll kind of way let people know what's going down and keep me accountable for what I'm playing and make me think about it further ahead. That way I'm not doing things so last minute. So I'm thinking about doing that. Saturday, maybe Mega Man. I may just make that StarCraft for a little bit until I finish StarCraft because I want to kind of do some different things with Mega Man because what I want to start doing, because I feel like the engagement between me and the audience is getting kind of weak. I would like to start doing some more things kind of like what Panda does, bring in some trivia, do some list stuff or something like that. With Mega Man, I kind of want to do something like a build a robot thing if I can find a way to do that, so we could piece something like that together to kind of do some more engagement with the audience, because I would like to see more audience participation in the streams, and I'm more to blame for that than anyone else because I'm getting into the game and I'm responding to people, but I'm focusing on the game and I'm not really taking the breaks to really engage with the audience, and I feel like that's something I need to start doing. So I'm trying to think of ways to do that and do that better. So that's kind of on my list. I also need to carve out some time because I want to start learning a couple different things to kind of make videos and make some of the shows more entertaining. I'd like to get more into After Effects, so I may start spending some of my time doing that. I don't know if I'm going to stream that or start streaming stuff about editing in Premiere. I don't know if there's an interest in that. I did one stream on that and it seemed to kind of be so-so. I did it primarily on Rumble. It may be a better suited thing for YouTube because I don't know that a lot of people on Rumble are really focused or engaged in doing edited content. Live content seems to be primarily what most people have interest in. on Rumble as a platform, from what I can tell right now. That still seems to be the case, regardless of what headway that Rumble as a platform is trying to do. I just don't think it's quite being. It's gotten better, but I still don't think it's quite there yet. So I don't think people are as interested in it yet. So it kind of is what it is. It's not that I'm gonna not put the content out on here. I just don't think like tutorial things or learning things about doing editing or After Effects is something that community is as interested in right now. It may come to that, and that would be great because it's something I could do and probably have a lot of fun doing, because it's kind of in my vibe of more educational stuff. But I don't, off the top of my head, I don't think it's there yet, personally. I don't know. You guys would have to let me know. You can leave a comment at the bottom of this VOD if you're watching it, and kind of let me know if it's something that you would actually be interested in. Because another thing I'd love to have on Rumble, and Rick, I hope you actually watch this. You probably not. Give me a community tab, please. So I can post things to people that are here on Rumble and have conversations and let people know what schedules are and stuff like that. I would love to have that stuff. It's something that's already there on YouTube that I can use, but it's not here right now. So it's one of those things I'd like to have. But that's kind of what's coming up. Things that I want to start doing a little bit better, that kind of engage with you guys better, and hopefully it'll work out, and Panda doesn't feel like too much like I'm stealing his shtick, because I can't think of other ways to really engage people. You know, most of the stuff he's covered, from like list to trivia to music trivia to all that stuff, you know, or even maybe short clips of like if we're doing something more movie related, of a movie or something like that. I've seen a lot of more people use AI art and ask people to kind of guess, you know, what the movie is and stuff like that. Maybe that's something that could kind of be done that I could work on. Anyway, those are just kind of ideas, but I'd like to thank you guys for being here. We're at almost 11 o'clock my time, which means we're almost 1 o'clock Mike's time. So I should really shut up and get us out of here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and spending time with us tonight. I appreciated the hell out of all of you coming in. If you haven't,
Absolutely.
drop a like, check out Mike's channel, follow my channel if you like what we're doing, and come out and hang out with us again. We're here to engage with you guys. We're here to have some fun with you guys and meet some new friends. So anytime you guys want to come out and hang out, we're more than happy to have you here. So thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you. I got tunes to listen to. Awesome. Perfect.
There you go.
There you go. So we're going to get out of here. You guys have a great night and have a great week. Hopefully we'll see you guys again later. Happy gaming, everybody.
Play on, gamer.